And for more analysis, we now move on to my dear colleague Hala Al-Hamalawi in our newsroom. Hala.
Thank you so much, Rana. For further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by the expert in international relations at Al Ahram, Dr. Ahmed Said Ahmed. Welcome to Q News. Dr. Ahmed, how do you interpret Israel's decision to launch new strikes and expand its control inside Gaza now?
And actually, Netanyahu and his decision, where he ordered the Israeli forces to strike Gaza, immediately reflects his attempts, Netanyahu's attempts, to satisfy the far-right government and their pressure that they're putting on him, and he is trying to take advantage of Hamas being late to hand over the bodies, and he is attempting to fail the agreement. And so I think that Netanyahu and the US know really well that accessing the bodies will take some time and needs equipment, whereas Israel is preventing the delivery of equipment, and at the same time it's trying to take advantage of this to use as a pretext to reignite the war and strike Gaza and stop us from moving on to the second phase and to hinder any plans to reconstruct the Gaza Strip. And it is also an attempt from Netanyahu to tell the far-right government that Netanyahu is not under the U.S. Control, and that Israel can make its own decisions, after some has said that Netanyahu had to listen to the U.S. pressure and to have a ceasefire. But this shows that the ceasefire agreement is facing great challenges, especially from the Israeli side, in the context of all the breaches that they have been having since the ceasefire agreement. And Hamas was supposed to hand in about an hour a body of an Israeli detainee, Tamer Zarouk, but Netanyahu, of course, is taking advantage of everything that's going on to try to not have the agreement hold up.
Given Washington's stance that actions of Hamas do not justify retaliation, how might this divergence in assessment affect U.S.-Israeli coordination and broader diplomatic dynamics in managing the Gaza truce?
I think that Washington's stance up till now is trying to hold up, to have the agreement hold up, especially after the U.S. envoys visits like J.D. Vance, Rubio, and before them Witkoff and Kushner and others to pressure Israel to not take any retaliatory measures against Hamas. But the problem here is that the USA is not really putting that much pressure on the Israeli side and preventing them from breaching the ceasefire and have them honor the agreement. And they have threatened Hamas that they have 48 hours to hand over the bodies, and so there will be some consequences or sanctions here. And I think that the USA and Israel through these strikes are trying to pressure to pressure Hamas into handing over the bodies faster. And I think that Egypt, along with the mediators, are trying to have the agreement hold up and overcome the challenges. And Egypt has sent a team to facilitate the aid delivery in general and to stop any justifications or pretexts that they're using. But I think that Washington will try at least now not to go back to war, and maybe will just allow a few strikes from Israel so that they can pressure Hamas. But this doesn't mean that the agreement has fallen completely.
So to what extent could Israel's planned operations inside Gaza be driven by internal political pressures particularly amid criticism of Netanyahu's leadership and security handling?
Of course, Israel, at the end of the day, they have so much pressure on them from um, around the world. But the one who could really put pressure on them is the USA. And Netanyahu is taking advantage of the time that Trump has allowed for as the 48 hours. They're using this as a pretext to have some strikes in the Gaza Strip. And so, yeah, I think that there are so many challenges, and Netanyahu cannot be trusted and to he cannot be trusted to honor the agreement. He always manipulates and stalls, and yeah, with all the allegations or from Israel that um, he is threatening Israel with his actions and with the ceasefire. And so, yeah, I think that he wants to show power and to reignite the war in the Gaza Strip and to overcome the internal pressures from Israel itself. And so, yeah, this is why he isn't honoring any international, or isn't bowing down to any international efforts, and he is trying to satisfy the far-right government and to get ready for the upcoming elections.
Mm-hmm. And how might the decision of Hamas to delay the handover of the detainees' body be interpreted as a negotiation tactic, a response to Israeli violations, or even a reflection of deeper mistrust in the truce mechanisms?
I think that Hamas they were ready to hand over the detainee body that was that they got from Qnews today. I think that, as Hamas is saying, it is a response to Israel's actions and decisions, but I think that the mediators, Egypt, Qatar, and the USA, maybe in the upcoming hours will try to pressure both sides, Hamas and Israel, to keep up the agreement and to implement it, and to keep up with the upcoming phases to hand the detainee bodies, and maybe in the upcoming hours, because there is a great benefit here to make sure that the agreement holds up and to work on facing the challenges and the obstacles that they are facing, especially from the Israeli side.
Mm-hmm. And how might a potential U.S. green light influence Israel's military calculus and regional reactions to a Gaza escalation?
Trump gave some kind of green light, but not fully. Trump doesn't want to go back to war and doesn't want to reignite it, but Hamas was given 48 hours at the end today, and that's why Netanyahu's decision came just as they're running out of time. And they decided that they want to strike Gaza immediately. Trump is saying that they know where the bodies are, and so in the context of the green light here, there is military pressure from Israel on Hamas, and which was accepted and permitted by the U.S. But the risk here is for this to turn to a full fallout of the agreement, and we will go back to the suffering of the Palestinians and the civilians in the Gaza Strip. But I think that there is so much pressure from the mediators, and they are coordinating with the USA to contain the tension and to pressure Israel to stop these breaches and strikes on the Gaza Strip.
Mm-hmm. So if the situation escalates militarily, what regional and international consequences could arise, particularly concerning Egypt's mediation role and the broader efforts to sustain a fragile ceasefire framework?
Of course, these tensions and breaches and escalation, they were expected. Egypt expected this, and so Egypt is making sure that we don't go back to the war. Egypt has sent so much aid to help the civilians, and is calling for Hamas to locate the bodies. and today they could get out a body because of some equipment that they have received. And also Egypt is making sure to coordinate with Qatar and the USA to make sure that we don't go back to war and to make sure that the agreement will hold up. But of course, Israel's insistence on the breaches will have so many consequences. Israel is aiming to take advantage of what's before them and to take control of the Gaza Strip, to prevent delivery of humanitarian aid, to stop the reconstruction process. And so yeah, Egypt is fully aware of the risks and the challenges that they can see, and they are aiming to facilitate the obstacles so that we can move on to the next phase and to start the reconstruction immediately, especially with Egypt hosting the reconstruction conference next month. And so yeah, if we go back to war, it will be very hard to start the reconstruction. And so Egypt is aiming to put so much effort and to coordinate with all the mediators to make sure that we fully implement the agreement and to face the challenges facing the first phase. And there are around 12 bodies now, but I think that Hamas is putting so much effort to locate them and end this.